before we talk about is VoIP a good solution for a small hotel, let's look at a couple of those words. What is VoIP? And we're going to do this very quickly. This is not meant to be a tutorial on VoIP, but basically VoIP is Voice over Internet Protocol. That's what the VoIP stands for. And that means we're using some kind of an IP network to transmit voice for your phone service. So it's basically talking over a LAN, an IP network, instead of over traditional phone lines. Theoretically, you can save money using the Internet instead of the phone lines, or your existing LAN can be used for your phone system phones, and you don't have to run additional cable for the phones if you're doing a new build. So theoretically, there's money savings there, and in actuality, there often is, but not always. The second thing that it does is it puts the brains of that phone system up into the cloud or into a server, into a computer, instead of into a piece of proprietary hardware that might be huge and might be only serviceable by one company. And another thing that Voice over IP can do for you is that you may be able to shift some of your original large capital expenditure associated with phone system purchase to more of an operational expense if you put everything up in the cloud. And you can do Voice over IP premise-based that looks like your traditional phone system but is really a VoIP-based system. And you can also do fully cloud and hosted Voice over IP. So without any further explanation of what VoIP is, certainly let's get going with a presentation of, wait a minute, what is VoIP? What is a small hotel? Let's talk about that too. Well, everybody has a different definition of a small hotel. I'm sure everyone would agree that there's a little bridge hotel with probably 4 or 5 rooms is a small hotel, and most people would agree that there's a little boutique hotel with around 20 rooms is a small hotel. But as you get bigger and bigger, I don't know, is this a small hotel? I don't know how far it goes off to the right there. And based on some of the people who've registered for this and looking at a couple of your websites, some of you out there might consider this a small hotel. Well, for the purpose of this webinar, really, the size of the hotel isn't what's going to become the main factor, and we'll see that. We will be addressing it as a small hotel focus, but what matters most is what you define a small hotel as. And what matters most in the decision about whether VoIP is right for a small hotel is going to not rest much with the size of the hotel. So let's get started with the actual analysis. Is VoIP appropriate for a small hotel? The answer is very definite and very easy, and it depends. Okay, what does it depend on? Yeah, you do need to think about a few things before deciding whether VoIP is good for your small hotel. Number one is going to be your needs, and we'll talk about what needs might be associated with a VoIP-based system. Number two is going to be your property infrastructure. Is your property ready for a VoIP-based system? Because if it's not, you certainly don't want to put one in. That could be a horror story. And the last thing is your resources that are available. Do you have available through your vendor or your group of vendors or on staff the IT talent that you'll need to shift from a TDM-based solution to a VoIP-based solution? You're probably sitting there saying, Frank, what's going on here? Why aren't you talking about the most important thing, and that's, of course, cost? Well, the reason I'm not talking about it is, number one, you better look at these 3 factors: needs, your property infrastructure, and your resources before you start looking at the money. Because if a VoIP-based system saves you money over a traditional system, but you're not ready for it, it's going to be a nightmare. And similarly, if you have some needs that require you to put in a VoIP-based system, but the TDM system is less expensive and you buy that anyway, as we'll see in an example, you're not going to be happy with that either. So we're not going to talk about money here, but I will tell you that a VoIP-based system might be less expensive for a small hotel than a traditional system. Not usually. Usually it's if you're just outright purchasing it, you're going to be looking at maybe a 20% more expensive solution today, but that's about it. I mean, it isn't going to be double, triple the costs. So let's look at those 3 factors. Do you need or want the features that VoIP offers? Features like ability to provide a higher touch with guests. So a VoIP-based system, for example, might be able to speak to the guest in their native language if the property management system shares their language with the phone system, which they can do. You can do more interactive wake-up. Hello, this is your wake-up call. If you'd like room service, press 1. If you would like to have a list of today's meetings, press 2, et cetera, et cetera. VoIP makes that a whole lot easier. Administrative features are improved, so we can do voicemail to email now a lot easier with a a VoIP-based system. Running a phone from your home or an alternate location, maybe a remote office that is connected to and actually part of your hotel phone system is very easy to do with a VoIP-based system, so off-premise phones are easy. And advanced features like Find Me, Follow Me for perhaps your maintenance guy or the general manager are all built into a VoIP-based system. The third thing here in terms of some of the features of VoIP, and by the way, there are many more features than this. Please do investigate the features of a VoIP-based system over TDM if you're considering VoIP. But the ability to remotely monitor and troubleshoot and even make adjustments to your phone system settings without having to have a tech out on site. Those of you who pay a per trip fee to your phone system vendor know that that can be expensive. What if you could just get in there and in 5 minutes figure out why you're not able to dial a certain number and fix that? That would be marvelous, and that's one thing that VoIP offers. It also will monitor itself and report to your vendor if it's not feeling well or if something's a little bit off kilter, and you can proactively take care of problems that in the past have been things that you didn't find out about. For example, a property management system interface is down. You don't find out about it until you realize that nobody's been charged for a phone call for 3 weeks. And the big thing is future-proofing. It's probably going to help you future-proof your phone system if you do a VoIP-based system, but we don't know what the future holds, and we can't promise that that a VoIP-based system today is going to be any more future-proof than a TDM system today. In general, though, VoIP gives you more and better features. So do you need the features of the future-proofing that VoIP offers? That's question number one. Question number two is, can your infrastructure support VoIP? And this is really important. Do you have LAN cabling to the positions where you'll have all your admin phones or all the SIP phones that you're planning to use? And the SIP phone is the phone that's used with VoIP, natively talking over the LAN. If you don't have LAN cabling to those locations, you're going to have to use some kind of a hybrid or a gateway that will convert the voice over IP signals to the old style telephone signals. And so if you're going to run your guest room phones with traditional phone cabling, you're going to need a lot of those gateways. Does that make sense to put in a VoIP-based system if you're going to use those gateways? Well, there are a lot of hybrids out there. We offer one called the Series 2, but there are a lot of hybrids out there that can provide you the advantages of VoIP but still know how to talk the old-fashioned TDM way or analog way to the guest rooms and analog phone lines. Is there room on your LAN for another piece of equipment, or do you have to build out a LAN of its own? Now, not small hotels, but in the larger chains, they are required to build a separate LAN, many of them, Hilton, Marriott, et cetera, for the phone system. If they're going to put in a VoIP phone system, they have to put in a separate LAN. So is your property ready for that if you want to take that approach? And the last thing is, if you're going to use a VoIP-based system for SIP trunking, i.e. real inexpensive local long-distance international phone calls, or if you're going to run it from the cloud, is your high-speed internet access dependable enough? Do you have the bandwidth on there to add the phone calls? Is it streaming steadily enough, both up and down, to provide the right quality of service for voice? Voice is more demanding than streaming video only because it can't be buffered. I cannot buffer a conversation and have things delayed and have it sound right. You can buffer download of an internet movie, but you can't do that with voice. So you really need high quality of service, good bandwidth, and something called traffic shaping that the QoS device can add. Are you ready for that? If not, you could be looking at a VoIP implementation nightmare, and we don't want that to happen to anybody. So consult with an expert, including us, if you are considering a VoIP-based system. And then the third thing is, do you really have the resources available to use a VoIP-based system? And what do we mean by that? Well, let's face it, VoIP is a little bit different. It's more like a tech phone, or excuse me, a cell phone than a traditional phone. It's going to do things a little bit differently, and it's going to be a little bit more persnickety. You know, if someone adjusts something on the LAN, your phone system might stop working if they don't know what they're doing. So do you have a nerd tech who understands why this T-shirt is funny? If you don't have one available, if your vendor can't provide that, then maybe that's not right for you. Another resource you're going to need is some patience, because, as I said, it is different. And your staff is if they're ready for moving into a new way of doing things and have the patience for it, it will work great. If not, if you just want simple and don't change anything on me, then it's probably not right for you. And again, here it says again, it's different. If any of you have ever given a parent or a grandparent their first cell phone and tried to help them use it, that requires patience, because it is different and it confuses them at first. Moving to a VoIP-based system is like getting your first cell phone. It changes the way you interface with the phone and the way you use it. For the better, most people think, yes, but it is different. So do you have the resources? Are you really, you have what's needed in place to shift to a VoIP-based system? And that basically is the presentation. That basically is what you need. It's really quite simple. I'm going to give you, however, instead of ending here, 3 examples, 3 case studies of some small hotels and whether or not VoIP was right for them. The first one is this wonderful little inn in the mountains. Most of the people that come there are fly fishermen or backpackers. They're out there on a vacation. They looked at systems and found out that for them, a VoIP or a TDM system were about the same price. But during their remodel, which they did recently, they ran only one Cat5 run to the front desk, just one for the computer there. They didn't anticipate Cat5 runs for any phones. The internet out in the sticks here in the mountains is not really that dependable. And their IT guy, who happens to be 30 miles away, didn't really know much about VoIP. And they did, of course, the logical thing, giving all these facts, and that is they did buy the VoIP-based solution. They got one admin SIP phone running on a VoIP-based solution. They put in analog gateways to run all the rooms, and they are not happy. They have had problems that they should not have to be dealing with, all related to not having determined whether or not they really needed a VoIP-based system, but mostly whether or not their property, their infrastructure was ready for it, and if they had the resources, which they did not, to run a VoIP-based system. So was VoIP a good solution for this property? I would say no. Second case study is a 6-room Days Inn down in Texas, and when they started looking around for a new phone system, they wanted the absolute latest technology. Then they realized, well, with the analog phones in the guest rooms, we really want a hybrid. We want a VoIP TDM hybrid so we can get the advantages of VoIP, but still run the old analog guest room phones. They got a whole bunch of different quotes, and they bought the cheapest system. They didn't really take a look at whether they needed or wanted VoIP. They just had heard about it. They decided that's what they were going to go for without evaluating it, whether or not they really would pull the trigger if it was right for them. And they just bought the cheapest system when all the quotes came in. So was VoIP a good solution for this property? Who knows? I would say it probably would have worked if they had the LAN cabling in place and the vendor who was offering the VoIP-based solution was close by and could take care of them. But we'll never know. Probably wasn't. Probably didn't need it. They probably made the right choice. Last example is a 35-room boutique hotel. Really nice property. It's high-end and it's got high net worth guests, no question about it. They strive for the highest level of service they can provide because they're charging a lot for those rooms. Their staff is well educated. They know what they're doing, and training new front desk staff on new technologies isn't a real difficult thing to do. But the owner selected a TDM solution just because they were told by the vendor, well, this has everything you need in it. These have been around forever, and it'll do everything you want, everything your hotel needs today. And it was 20% less expensive, and the owners do look at that, obviously, more than a general manager or staff might. The problem is the staff did know about the latest technology. Some of them had used newer IP-based systems at different hotels. And the GM, who was expecting things like a phone that would register from their home and find me, follow me to their cell phone, was pretty livid because those features aren't there. So in this case, is VoIP a good solution? Yes, they should have gone with VoIP. So again, 3 examples, 3 really simple things to check for, and we'll go over those one more time here. Are you ready for VoIP? Is your hotel ready for VoIP? Is it a good solution? Well, check out your needs. Do they really require that you have a VoIP system? Do you want to be future-proof? If so, you should look hard at a VoIP-based system. But really, is your hotel infrastructure and are your staff ready for something that is different? And is your wiring, cabling, your infrastructure ready and in place and all set to do voice over IP? And last, do you have knowledgeable IT support available either through your vendor or on your own staff? Because again, it's like giving grandma her first cell phone. You've got to have someone around who can show you how to do these new and different things. I do have one question here. What would you say is the most important factor when deciding whether or not VoIP is right for your small hotel? And actually, I put small in there, it just says hotel. I think it's the infrastructure. I think it is looking at whether or not your LAN is capable of supporting a phone system, or do you even have the runs in place that you'll need to run SIP phones? I mean, if you do not have the infrastructure in place, we've seen this a couple of times, it becomes a horror story. You've got to look through that, think through that with the advice of an expert ahead of time. I don't care if you want all the latest, greatest features or need them. It's not going to hurt you if you buy VoIP and you don't need those features yet. But if your infrastructure isn't ready, that's going to be the biggest problem. And secondary to that, I would say, is your staff, because your staff is sort of part of the whole hotel infrastructure. And if they're not ready to shift to VoIP, you're going to be in trouble. Who is PhoneSuite? Just briefly so that you know, we're a U.S.-based company. We were established in 1988. We do hotel phone systems, period. That is our area of expertise. We focus exclusively on telephone and voice and hotel industry. And over 4,000 hotels throughout North America use some of our products, or at least one of our products. And now we offer both traditional PBX, the standard phone systems that hotels have relied on for 40-plus years, as well as the VoIP-based systems. So you can get both from us. And in the bottom there, you can see our PhoneSuite TDM console for our small hotel product, and that's been around for 15 years. Our new hybrid, that is voice over IP, driving analog lines, and the voiceware-based product that is the front desk console that pops up on your browser if you're using our voice-based system.